I know you have probably heard of Ibrahim Traore, and if you haven't, don't worry, I'm here to tell you all about him, what you need to know about him. Ibrahim Traore, the man whom the West and even some African leaders fear and are afraid of his ruling in Burkina Faso. So, who is Ibrahim Traore and how did he come to power? So, Ibrahim Traore came to power through a military coup that overtook the government that was then in Burkina Faso on September 2022, and since then he has been the ruler of Burkina Faso. The reason why most West African countries and even African leaders seem to fear him is because of what he has done in the time he has been in office, proving that it's the mentality that is hindering, and also that is the still while you are in power mentality that the African leaders have, that is causing the poverty and the prolonged corruption that has really tarnished the names of some countries that in Africa they are supposed to be thriving, but the kind of leaders they have and the mentality that these leaders have is dragging the country behind. Now, Traore is a relatively young president. He's among the youngest presidents in the world. So him being a young president, he understands that the young population of Africa, they are tired of the old guard and the way they used to think. If I'm in power, I give my friends the positions in power, but for him, he appoints according to one's knowledge of that field and the way he's ruling that country. He has become a darling of most of Africa, not most, literally the majority of African, they are the young ones. He has become the darling president of African Gen Zs and millennials. So I wanted to talk about why most Western and African countries want him out and why they feel threatened by him being in power. First, he is not as corrupt as most African countries are. You'll see that most African actually make it to the list of the most corrupt countries in the world, and you can see for him he's eliminating that. And second, it's the way he's boosting the agricultural sector in his country. He recently gave farmers bicycles, tractors, fertilizers to enable them to plant and also harvest with ease and transport their goods with ease. With such kind of incentives set in place, I think it encourages even the farmers to farm. And he also opened a tomato processing factory in Burkina Faso. This is a really good. He's not only boosting the farmers, but he's also creating of jobs for the youth and also creating a market for their product. Also, with such act, you can be sure that he is slowly going to eradicate hunger in Burkina Faso, since with such incentives, farm produce are going to increase, hence food in Burkina Faso will not be an issue. The other thing is that Ibrahim Traore recently also boosted the health sector. He gave them cold rooms, he gave them mobile trucks so that they can be able to reach those rural parts of the country where access to a health facility is really rare and also hard to come by. With such, I think it also boosts the immunity and also prolonged the life lifespan of the Burkina Faso citizens, and also this with such effort you can start to see why even some African countries, some African presidents, really want him out. You see the things that he is introducing to make the lives of Burkina Faso citizens much easier. A while back when Trump came to power, his first agenda was to cut on federal funding and most US funded aids, and one of the major thing that US fund is the US aid, which is funded around the world, and it really affected most African country when it was cut. Like when it was cut for South Africans who receive HIV medicine through the US aid, it's really affected those communities. But for Burkina Faso, they said they could do without US aid, and they proved that as they did 91% of the thing US aid usually help to fund for in government without the US aid. He also signed a treaty with Niger and Mali to establish the world's only confederation called Alliance of Sahel States. They vowed not to return to ECOWAS, planning to establish a bank, a funding system, and also this destabilized the ECOWAS bloc since 3 of its partners have broke and they've moved away from the bloc. Now you see why some African presidents want him out. And contrary to most African countries who run to the West for their aid, Ibrahim Traore has formed a very strong relationship with Russia, Russia and the West are not in such good states, friendship wise and relationship wise, even diplomacy wise. He has forged a very good relationship with Moscow and has even went ahead to encourage the reopening of Russian embassy in Burkina Faso after 31 years of closure. Recently, when Russia was celebrating the Victory Day, Captain Ibrahim Traore was among the leaders, including Xi Jinping of China, that were invited to Moscow to witness the Russian parade, and also you could see him shaking hands with Putin. This symbolizes their close bond with Moscow. He also expelled French troops from Burkina Faso, officially ending the Sahel operation. He also dropped French as a national language and adopted the local language. Captain Ibrahim Traore also went ahead and dropped the Western wig that the lawmakers usually wear and opted for traditional attires. Even in school, he dropped the school uniform and opted to encourage the national manufacturers and opted for traditional wear. He has also introduced a biometric passport for Burkina Faso without the ECOWAS logo. Captain Ibrahim Traore also bought the mining. Burkina Faso is one of the countries very, very rich with minerals in Africa, and for this the Western Africa countries have really been milking it dry, mining wise, their resource wise. Burkina Faso bought 2 of the biggest gold refiners from the private section and nationalized them. And he bought them for a fraction of the amount that they were officially listed for. They were listed for $300 million USD and he bought them for 80 million USD, a fraction of the original amount. Although he expelled France from Burkina Faso, he has said that he wants to maintain a diplomatic relationship with France. Ibrahim Traore has survived more than 4 coup attempts in the last 2 years alone. You can imagine. In 2023 alone, 4 military officers were connected in connection to a coup attempt on the government of Ibrahim Traore. 4 soldiers were also arrested in January 2024, and a coup attempt a few days ago was also discovered. Everything that Ibrahim Traore is doing for the citizen of Burkina Faso, this is making other leaders of Africa look like they are doing nothing, and you can see where their want for him to be, for his government to be ousted is coming from. Ibrahim Traore has done a lot for his government and for his country that I cannot be able to put in one video, but I don't think this is enough reason for the West to want to assassinate him and maybe to overthrow his government. But do tell me what you think about the reign of Traore in Burkina Faso. Is the way he came to power right, and is he ruling right? If you ask majority of Africa, Ibrahim Traore is the man the rest of Africans and the African president should try to emulate. But anyway, I'm here giving you everything that has been happening for the past few days and introducing you to the man, the myth, the legend, Ibrahim Traore. If you're new, subscribe. See you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.